So yeah, let's start the session and welcome to session 2. So in the last session, we talked about the document.query selector, okay, and the document.query selector all. Okay, and we also kind of talked a bit about CSS3 selectors, okay, which can be used along with the document.query selector to select DOM elements, right? So I think this part is clear to everyone, right? Just drop in a message in the chat window whether the document.query selector and the CSS3 selector part is clear. Okay, yeah, great. Okay, so let's take it a step further. Okay, Shraddha, you can just revisit the materials. I will be posting some notes this weekend for session 1 and session 2. Okay, you can just go to the material. We only talked about the document.query selector and document.query selector all. Okay, so we'll be kind of touch basing on this again. Okay, so in case you missed it, you can catch up from there as well. Okay, so now what we will do is we'll take one more small step at a time, right? So idea is to learn in bits and pieces, right? Like micro learning task. So what we will do today is let's kind of try to understand more. So I'll open up a new code pen here. Just allow me a second to do so. Or JSBin. Okay, so initial exercises I will be using JSBin or CodePen, right? So that I could directly share the URL with you and you can practice with me. Now, one important thing that we all know and aware is that primarily we will be using JavaScript to build client-side applications, right? More importantly, user interfaces and single-page applications. Okay, eventually, at a later point in time, we can use JavaScript in the form of Node.js, right? To handle server-side code and APIs as well. Okay, so just keep that point in the back of your head. Now let me come back to a very simple example here. So I am hoping that everyone understands this simple HTML structure here, right? So it's an empty HTML structure. There's a doc type and the importance of doc type. I actually shared this in the chat Telegram group window. Please take a look and read about the Cox mod and other details. Okay, and so please do the reading as well so that will give you additional information on the topic that we are covering. Okay, please mute yourself if anyone's microphone is unmuted. In case you need to speak, you can unmute and speak. Thank you. Okay. Okay, so let's come back in here now. Now we know that in the HTML, this HTML tag itself is the root element, right? It is the root because all the standard HTML markup is contained within this HTML root. Okay. Now what I'll do is right within this body, I'll create a button. Okay, with an ID of say maybe click me, something like this. Okay, and I'll close the button tag. Okay, and you will immediately see the output on the right side in here, right? Okay, there is no text in the button. That's why it's actually kind of looking a bit weird. Okay, so let me just add some text in here. So I'll just add the text, click me. Okay, and at this point in time, you can see this button rendered onto the screen. Now, one of the primary function as a UI or a front-end developer that we all have to do is to select DOM element, right? And make some DOM manipulations. Okay, now the first thing that we typically do is to select an element, and we all know how to select a DOM element, right? So can someone let me know in the chat window how you can query the DOM elements? There are various ways, some of which we discussed in the session 1 as well. Okay, but then maybe some of you can update me in the chat window. What is the best way to select this specific button using the DOM methods? Get element by ID, that's correct. And any other options, others? Query selector, that's right. Okay, so we can use either get element by ID or we can use query selector also, right? So let's try to tackle this now. So my objective is quite simple. So what I want is I actually want to show an alert message when I click on this button. Okay, it's a very simple task, right? Many of you might already know this. But if you are new to JavaScript, treat this as a quick revision. Okay, so we have a button in here. So first thing that I have to do is to get a handle to this button, right? So I need to select this button, okay, which is nothing but an element. And then I would like to add an event listener. Okay, and we are interested in the click event. And once the click happens, I simply want to show an alert message. A very simple task, right? So let's do it step by step for this task, and then we will take a look at real life task. So the first thing I can do is I'll go to this JavaScript section here, and I would say const button equal to document dot query. I'm using document dot query selector. Okay, and here we can pass in a valid CSS selector. Okay, and here we have a button with an ID of click me. Now, can anyone let me know in the chat window what is a valid CSS selector for selecting this ID? Okay, someone already mentioned hash click me, pound click me, right? Yeah, so I could simply give pound or hash symbol and then the click me. Okay, this click me is the ID. And how do you represent an ID? You represent it with the hash symbol here, right? So now at this point in time, if I try to log this button in the console window, you will see that this DOM element is currently available and okay, selected as well, right? So maybe when I run this, you can see this entire script or code getting logged, right? Which is nothing but the button element. Okay, now this button is a valid HTML DOM element, right? And once you have this DOM element, you can use any of these additional DOM methods to add events to it. Okay, let me just clear this DOM window. Okay, and now since we already have a handle to the button, how can we add a click event to it? So there's a method called add event listener. So this is a method with which we can add events to existing DOM elements. Okay, and which is the event we are interested in? We are interested in a click event. So we have to pass the first parameter as a click. So there can be a lot of events, right? There's a click event, there's a key up event, there's a key down event, there's a mouse event, mouse move event, mouse up event, mouse down event, and lot of events. So initially we are only interested in handling the click event. Now the second parameter is the function that will be executed when this button is clicked. Okay, so the second parameter is a function that will be executed when the button is clicked. So this is what the code looks like. Shraddha, don't worry about using VS Code for now. Okay, just understand the concepts. Okay, later on you can move this code to VS Code. Okay, I'll share the notes how to do it also. Okay, right now only spend time understanding the concepts first. Okay, and you can directly execute the code online. And later on when we move the projects, right, we can add it to the VS Code and organize things. Okay, the reason I'm not using VS Code for earlier initial sessions are sharing becomes difficult, right? So here I could simply share these URLs with you and you could directly practice the code along with me. Okay, but the project that we will build, we will use VS Code or any other editor of your choice you can use. Okay, so at this point in time, we have a handle to the button. We are adding a click event. Okay, and whenever this event is fired, this specific function will be executed. Okay, now this function is actually known as callback. This is actually called something called as a callback function. Okay, remember these terms. These terms are very important. Okay, this function is nothing but a callback function. Okay, it's a technical term. Just remember this is nothing but a technical term. Okay, and why is this called a callback function? Now, take a look at this code. Okay, so here we are kind of indicating that we are adding an event listener called click. And this function should only be executed when the click happens, not before, right? That's why this is a callback. This function is called back by the window or the browser object when a click happens. Okay, someone is calling this function. Okay, just keep that point in mind. Now at this point in time, it's a very simple exercise for me, right? The only thing I have to do here is simply put an alert in here, right? I am clicked. Okay, this is how your typical click event will look like. So at this point in time, if I click on this button, you will see this message, I am clicked. Okay, so this is the absolute basic. Okay, now one more thing I would simply update in here. There's one more parameter that we typically pass. Okay, and by default, this is always false. And this parameter is something called as use capture. Just make a point of this. We will actually discuss this use capturing and bubbling at a later point in time. Okay, so by default, this parameter is false. Okay, this is about event bubbling and event capturing, which typically browser handles in different way. Okay, so just make a point of this. This will be discussed later. But I am just putting it here for the sake of reference. Okay, so at this point in time, we have a button which, when clicked, shows an alert. Now, how can we write the same code, say using the modern ES? This is the old way to write function. Okay, how can we write it using the modern ES6 or ES7 notation, right? Using arrow function. Okay, we'll talk about use capture, Rakesh. Okay, just keep this point in mind. Okay, this is a big topic we'll be covering later on. Okay, I'm only keeping it for syntax right now. Even if you don't pass it, it will be false, but we'll have a separate session on event bubbling. Okay, so when a click happens on the button, this function will be executed. Okay, it's an anonymous function, right? Because there is no name, but you can give it a name, something. Okay, it doesn't matter actually whether you name this function or not at this point in time. Okay, but at a later point in time, I'll kind of highlight you the significance of naming as well. Okay, so right now, even if you don't name this function, it will still work. So this is one way to do it, right? So what is the other way to do it? So let me simply copy this, comment this code out. Okay, and I'll come back in here, and I'll now use the arrow function. Okay, so the arrow function looks like this. It's exactly the same code, right? See, it still works. But the arrow function is a shorter way to write the code. Okay, something like this. This is an arrow function. Okay, it looks something like this. Okay, we'll talk about arrow functions, etc. at a later point in time. I'm just showing you the syntax because maybe if you are self-studying, right, and you will encounter syntax like this, you at least know this syntax represents the arrow function. Okay, now one thing to observe here is, doesn't matter which mode of function you are using, whether you are using a normal function or an arrow function, whenever the click happens, an event object is available. This is actually passed by the browser to you. Browser JavaScript engine. Okay, and this event object contains information about the event that has happened. Okay, so and we can use it for different purposes. Okay, for now what I'll do, I'll simply log this information. Okay, so how can I log it? Maybe I'll come back in here and I'll say console.log event, just a label I am giving it, and then I am passing in the event object like this, console.log. Okay, this console.log is typically used for debugging purpose, for logging information to the console. And where is this console? I could right click and open this inspect window, and right within this inspect window, you will actually find a separate tab called console. Okay, and this is where the code uh, for the console.log will happen. Okay, now if I click here, you will see that information getting logged here. See, so this event object is nothing but a mouse event, and it has lot of information. See, lot of information. Okay, over a period of the course, we will actually dwell into detail of some of these parameters. That is very, very important. But one thing that is very important here is this event has a property called target. Okay, it has a property called target, event dot target. Okay, now this target property is very important. Okay, let's take a look at the value of this target property first. And one more thing I'll do here is just for the sake of keeping the screen clear, I'll put a console.clear here. Okay, so that this console window is automatically cleared for us. Now, when I click on this click me button here, okay, you will see the target is actually pointing to the button. Okay, this is a very important point to understand. So when you grab this event object and you are taking a look at what was the target, where did this event happen, right? It actually points to button, and that's very true, right? Because the event happened on this button, and this button is nothing but the button that is present in the HTML page. Okay, but this property is very, very important. I mean, and we will make use of this property eventually. So keep this point in mind. Is these things clear to everyone so far, whatever we covered? Any question in this before we proceed? Others? Is this clear so far? So now everyone knows how to attach an event handler, right? Now it doesn't matter what kind of event you are attaching, you will use the same syntax, button or whatever object dot add event listener. The only thing that will change here is this name of the event. Okay, so it's click, there can be mouse down, mouse up, mouse move. Okay, lot of things will be there. Okay, and we will cover each of these things eventually. Okay, but this information is very important. The event object is very important. Inspecting the event object. Okay, if you are new to programming, always inspect the values. Okay, always inspect the values and try to make a guess about what those values are. Okay, so for now, I am just informing you that this event has a target object and this target is very, very important because it points to where the event happens. Okay, so far so good, right? So this seems very, very simple. So now what we can do is sometimes what happens is better or best practice, right? Um, it may happen that I accidentally gave an wrong ID here. Maybe instead of click me, I just gave a wrong spelling here, right? The moment that happens, you will immediately see that there's a type error and the error is cannot read property add event listener of undefined. This is because when this document.query selector happened and we passed in a wrong ID, this button was not found and it was null. Okay, and when you try to add an event listener, you are trying to add the event listener on a null object, and that's why you actually got the error, uncaught error, cannot read property add event listener of null. Okay, so Harshal is asking, how can I know how many params I can pass in a callback function? Harshal, you will never know it. Okay, so it's a technique to know is very simple. One thing is whenever you have an event object, there will always be an event object being passed. Okay, if any more parameters, that you will get it from the MDN documentation, Mozilla Developer Network documentation. Okay, and eventually when you do more coding, this will actually become you will actually get used to this. So what are the common event and what are the parameters? Okay, so for now, just because it has lot of properties, and the thing is you will never remember everything, but what we have to remember is what is the fundamental thing in an event. There's an event object, that's it. And the moment you start working with other objects, you will actually come to know what are the callbacks available, and different uh, methods has different parameters for the callback, but for the events, mostly it is standardized. Okay, but we'll talk on that also more as we encounter scenarios and situations. Now, one thing we have to note here is a better practice. What I have to do is whenever I try to get some DOM element and if I try to attach an event listener, right, I always have to check whether this is available or not, because accidentally, maybe I am selecting a wrong element which is not at all available, right? And you may get errors like this. Okay, so I'm just showing you some better practices when you start doing the code. So what I can do here is very simple. So before I attach the event here, right, I could simply check if button is available. Then only attach the event listener. Okay, so this if statement will return true in case the button is not null or undefined. Okay, I'm just moving this piece of code within the if block. So now, even though I am giving a wrong ID, you will not have that error being thrown into the console, right? But the only thing is, if you try to click on the button, nothing will happen because there is no click event attached. Okay, because we gave a wrong selector. But at least there is no error throwing up in the window. Okay. So this if statement will only be executed if there is a valid value in the button. It is neither null or undefined. Okay, it actually checks for null or undefined. Okay, now one thing I can do here is, since we know this, I could simply give it a correct ID now, so that once I click on the button, I can get the required information. Okay, so watch out for whether DOM element is present or not. Okay, so is this part clear to everyone so far? Okay, great. Okay, now using this knowledge, let's try to create a real world use case. Okay, and see whether how much of this knowledge we can apply to that use case. Okay, so that's how we will learn. We'll learn a concept and try to apply it. Now, let's take a look at a prominent website. Maybe I'll go to linkedin.com. So everyone knows this website, linkedin.com, right? Doesn't matter. There are a lot of websites like this, right? But here there's an important feature. The feature is this. So suppose, assume you are building a login page, correct? And you enter your, say, login, something like this. Okay, and then you enter your secret password. Okay, but then at this point in time, I'm not very sure what actually I keyed in, because I cannot see these values, right? But there's a button called show here. When I click on show, you can see the password. Okay, but when you click on hide, again the password is hidden. Okay, so let's try to implement this feature using whatever knowledge we have. Okay, so is this requirement clear to everyone? Just drop in a message in the chat window. Okay, so let's see how we can build it. Okay, do not worry about CSS, okay, the look and feel, etc. We will add stylings, etc. later on as we encounter more advanced features. Right now, our objective is to understand the fundamentals. Okay, so let's build this form. So now, having aware of this scenario, so first thing I will do is, okay, let me just create a brand new JS bin. Okay, and here I'll give it a title login. Okay, and I will enable the auto run, so that the moment I type in the code, okay, the output and the JavaScript is automatically reflected. Okay, and let me just create a div here. Okay, and within this div, okay, I'll simply call this as login page. Okay, and I'll create a form. Okay, so always whenever you have to capture data from the user, right, always use a form tag. Okay, because form tags helps you capture the data. Okay, and there are certain better practices. We'll talk about the form tag. Now, what are the things that is needed here? I'll create one more div here. Okay, and I'll create a label, okay, called username. Okay, and then I'll create an input of type text. Okay, and I'll assign a name attribute to this. I'll call it as username. Okay, and I can also assign an ID also if I wish. I'm just showing you all the important attributes. Okay, so we have a username here, right? Okay, and let me just make a copy of this. Okay, and this one will be called password. Okay, and I'll name it as password. Okay, and I'll give it an ID of password. Okay, now the difference here will be, instead of text, here we have to give input type is of password. Okay, because there are various types of input, right? Text input is there, password input is there. Okay, also email input is supported as well. Okay, certain HTML5 types can be presented here. Okay, now the moment I give password here, right? So whatever you type, this will not be visible. Okay, but in the username field, whatever you type, it is kind of visible. Now let's create one more div here. Okay, let's create one more div here. Okay, and here I'll say label. Okay, and here I'll type in an input type equal to, I'm using a checkbox for now. Okay, and I'll assign a name to it, and name maybe I'll simply call it as show password, and also assign an ID called show password and a text of show password to it. Okay, so now you can see that your HTML is kind of getting created, right? Okay, I'll bring it to new line so that you can easily see the code. So this is a simple structure. And then finally what I'll do here is I'll create one more div. Okay, and here I'll create a button with a type of submit. Okay, and I'll simply kind of give it label of log in. So is this HTML markup clear to everyone so far? Okay, I'm assuming you have some knowledge of HTML, but I am just simply writing it down so that you can see it, and if any queries, you can ask it also. Okay, now important here is whenever you build a form, it has to be accessible, right? For example, a better practice when you build a form is something like this, right? See, on this page, you have username and you have password, correct? What I want is typically from an accessibility perspective, the moment user clicks on the username, the focus should be on this username box. The moment user clicks on the password, the focus should be on the password box. Okay, that is considered to be better practice when you build the form. Now to achieve this, it's quite simple. The only thing we have to do is we have to come back to this label here, and I'll say use the for attribute, okay, and give it the ID. Okay, now this indicates that, okay, in this case, it will be show password. So this indicates that this specific label is actually associated with this specific input that has an ID of show password. Okay. Similarly, I can do it for username. Okay. So this will indicate that this specific label is connected to this input of type text, which has an ID of username. So the moment I make this change, and if I click on this username, you see the focus is on username. Okay. The same thing has to be done for password also. So I'll say input type equal to, sorry, not type, input for password. Okay, I'll remove this. I'll remove this name for a moment. Click here and you can see it's connected to password, right? Because it's actually, it needs the ID to connect. Okay, so is this very, very clear to everyone? Why this label for is important? Okay, so whenever you build the forms, please always use the label form if you have a label, so that in cases where people with disability, right? Or maybe from a usability perspective, people are signing in. Okay, clicking in here will take you to the respective input boxes. Okay, now comes the most important part. So what I want is whatever username I have here, that's okay. Okay, but the moment I type some password and when I click on this show password, this password should be displayed in clear text. When I uncheck the show password, this password should again be scrambled. Okay, this is my technical requirement. Okay, is this requirement clear to everyone so far? Great. Okay, let's continue now. Okay, let's implement this. Now, one thing I know, first thing to do that is there are a couple of things I want, right? I need to handle the a click event on this checkbox. Okay, that's one thing I have to do. Okay, and depending whether this checkbox is clicked or not, I have to change the input type of this password from password to text and vice versa, so that we can toggle it, right? For example, if you take a look at in here, if you click here, see it actually becomes a text now, right? How do you know it is a text? If I inspect this on the LinkedIn website, okay, and observe here, this is how you typically learn whenever you are starting it out. Okay, and I'll just inspect this password field now. Okay, now here you can see that you have an input and the type is text, right? Here on this side, the type is text. Okay, but the moment you click on hide, you can see the type now becomes password. Is this clear? Is this observation very clear to everyone? Again, this is what we want to simulate in our login page application also. Okay, so let's see how we can do this now. So I'll go back to my application again here, and I'll bring up the JavaScript pane. Okay, I'll bump down the font size a bit. Okay, now here, first thing I do is grab the DOM elements. Okay, grab the DOM elements. Okay, so I'll say const password equal to document dot query selector. I'll select this password field. Okay, and for now I'll because I know this is username, this is password, and for the checkbox we have the ID of show password, right? So this we also have to grab this information. Okay, so I'll come back here and say const toggle password. Okay, I'm naming it toggle password, document dot query selector, and I'll give it this show. I think it is show password, right? Yeah, show hyphen password. Okay, so here I am getting a hold onto the DOM element. So at this point in time, I have a way to access the password field. I also have a way to access this toggle password checkbox, right? Both the things are available to us. So now we have to listen for click event. Okay, so here what I can do, I could simply say toggle password dot add event listener. Okay, and the event that we are interested in is the click event. Okay, and now I could technically write a function, right? Whenever the click happens, some function has to be executed. Okay, that I could write it down, right? But sometimes what happens if the function is big, right? So this code will actually become difficult to maintain. So what I can do, I'll simply reference a function here called, maybe I can, let me name these variables correctly. So I'll simply call this as password check. And then I'll create a function called toggle password. Now this toggle password function is not created yet. Okay, so I could actually write the code here. Let me write the code first here itself. Okay, then I'll move the code. Okay, so now whenever the checkbox is clicked, okay, this specific function will be executed. Okay, how do we prove it? We'll simply alert here. Okay, I am clicked. Now if you come back in here and click on this checkbox, you will get the alert. Again, click on the checkbox, you will get the alert, right? So this part is kind of working correctly. Okay, so now inside here, what we have to do, we have to check if the checkbox is true or false. Okay, so I could type in if password check dot checked. Okay, so checked is a property. So if it is checked, okay, this value will be true. Otherwise, this value will be false. So what I will do, if it is checked, I already have access to this password element, right? So let me do the naming. See, naming things are very, very important. Okay, so if you incorrectly name things, right, things will become difficult to understand. So this is my password element, correct? So I'll simply call it as say password input. Okay, so this is my show password checkbox, correct? So I'll call it as show password check for now. Okay, so that the naming is kind of correct and we are able to read our code correctly as well. Okay, so this actually makes things clear now. Now what we need to do is, if this button is clicked, we want this password field to be converted from password to text and vice versa, right? So that's quite simple. I could simply grab the password input and type and change the type to text. Okay, if it is not checked, that means the show password checkbox is unchecked. We simply change the type back to password. Okay, so now let's give it a try. So initially it is unchecked, right? So the input type is, or it's actually by default password, right? The moment I check it, okay, so let's see if I write something here, secret password. You can see the password getting displayed onto the screen. Now if I check it again, if it becomes false, we are changing the input type back to password. See, it becomes password and show password, right? Is this implementation very clear to everyone now? How this can be accomplished? Okay, these are small examples, okay? But you will find these things in your daily task as you start building the projects. Okay. Now here the important thing was it is not the code. It is about writing good maintainable code also, right? So naming is very, very important. Now I realize here that this code can become a bit difficult to manage, right? So maybe I'll abstract this code into a separate function. So I'll create a function called toggle password, okay, which is a function that will receive the event. Okay, same thing. And then I'll simply grab this entire code from here. Okay, and I'll move it to toggle password. Okay, and here instead of writing a function inline, I'll simply refer this function. So this simply means that whenever a click happens on this show password checkbox, okay, simply call the method or function called toggle password. Okay, let me correct the spelling here. Okay, let me correct the spelling here. Okay. Now the important thing here is, see, I am referencing this variable function. Okay, I am not calling the function. See, let me just verify whether it's kind of working. Show and hide, show and hide, right? See, I am not directly calling it here. This is very important to realize. This is directly calling the function, which is not what we want. If you try, it will not work now. Because when you call this function directly, this function is not returning anything, right? So by default, undefined is returned. Okay, and undefined is attached to the click event, and that's why the click is not firing. Is it clear, everyone, why this is not working now? Because you are invoking the function immediately. See, opening and closing parenthesis, right? This means execute the function immediately. If it is immediately executed, it is not returning anything, and undefined will be attached to the click handler. And if you try to click it, nothing will happen because there is no event handler. We have to give a function reference. So do not call it. Simply give a function name here. Is this very clear now, everyone? Why this is important to be aware of? Okay, just drop a message in the chat window. So I hope things are very, very clear. Now, one more final thing for this this session today. Now, I assume that this is just to show you. Okay, I'll open up the inspect here. Okay, and take a look at the network tab for a moment. Okay, there's a network tab here, right? Take a look at the network tab here. Now see what I'm doing here. So maybe I am typing my username. Okay, and maybe I'm typing some secret password, right? I could show, I could hide. That's okay. So far, so good. Okay, but when I click on the login, you will see your page is completely refreshed. Okay, and the page is entirely loaded. Nothing is being shown. Okay, and Saurabh is asking a question. If there is some other overload or toggle password method, Saurabh, there is no function method overloading in JavaScript. Okay, is this clear? There can only be one toggle password. Okay, there is no method or function overloading in JavaScript. Is it clear, Saurabh? Okay. Okay, but suppose you still declare 3 toggle password method, na? The latest one will only be picked because rest of the things will be ignored. Okay, we'll talk about that when we talk about object-oriented programming and inheritance and overriding. Okay. Okay. Now this is kind of important to note, right? So the moment you clicked on the login, the entire page refresh. You don't want that to happen. Okay, you don't want that to happen. So what you want is whatever is being keyed in, right? And when you click on login, you actually want this login to be controlled by the JavaScript, okay, and not by the default form submission that happens. So typically why this is happening is, this entire page is refreshing is, if you take a look at the HTML that we created, right? So if I go back to the HTML, so by default, the form tag automatically submits to itself. If you have a submit button, the form tag will automatically make a post request to itself. Okay, that's the reason the full page is getting refreshed. Okay, but when we actually build a single page application or JavaScript application, we actually want this submit to be controlled by the JavaScript, and so that once I click on login, I can capture this user information and maybe make an API call to my server to actually make a login call. and then handle this call myself, right? Let me just show you that. This is very, very important, no matter what kind of forms you are building. Okay, so there's a submit button here, right? So let me just give it an ID. I simply call it as um, submit form. Okay, so I gave this button an ID so that when I click on the button, I could handle the event, right? So once I give it an ID, okay, I'll go back to the JavaScript. Okay, and I will create a variable to hold that button, document.query selector. Okay, and the ID is submit form. Okay, now what we need is, since we already have this ID available, right? I could attach a click handler to that. Okay, so I could come back here and say submit form dot add event listener. Okay, and the event that we are interested in is click. Okay, and there will be a function. Sorry, just a second now. There's some issue with my keyboard. Okay, yeah. And there will be a function, okay, that will be executed when this button is clicked. Okay, and we can do something in here. Now let's observe here for a moment what will happen. We all know, right, at this point in time, if I, even though I have an event listener here, let me just put an alert here for now, alert. Okay, so let me save this. Okay, let me just put anything, any random value, click on login here. See, nothing is happening. The entire page is kind of refreshed, right? Okay, and ignore these errors in this console. These are nothing but my browser errors. Okay, so don't worry about this error that is coming up in here. Okay, so what is the reason this event is kind of not working, right? Okay, there are a couple of things that we need to observe here. One thing is I am very, very sure that this submit form is a valid object, right? How can you verify? I simply alert the submit form here. Okay, and if it is an object, that means, okay, this element is successfully available to the JavaScript code, right? Okay, so we have this HTML button element being available. That essentially means, okay, this is a valid object. Okay, that means the click event is also kind of attached correctly to it, right? But the problem here is, since this form, this is an HTML form here, which contain this submit button, the moment you click on this button, automatically the form will be submitted. The first thing that we have to do is to prevent this default behavior. That's why typically you will find in JavaScript form code that the first line here will be event.prevent default, that you have to add in your JavaScript code. Okay, so prevent default means it will prevent the default behavior of the browser and let JavaScript take control of the code. Now see, you are getting this alert, right? So now what we are doing is, the moment the submit form is clicked, we are saying, please prevent the default behavior of the submit because we are going to handle the submit code. Okay, and then my alert is kind of showing up correctly. Is this very, very clear to everyone? Why this is important to be aware of? Whenever you create a form with a submit button or a submit handler, okay, and you will see that your submit is not working, right? It's because by default the form is getting posted to itself. So you have to prevent the default action by calling the event.prevent default method. Okay, after this you can write your JavaScript code here. Okay, your code for submission goes here. Whatever you want to do. There is no scenario, Sanjay. We will have to use a submit prevent default if we are dealing with forms. Okay, but for other buttons there will be different scenario. Okay, so when we encounter those scenarios we will discuss that. Okay, but if it is a form, prevent default has to be used, otherwise your form will be submitted and your JavaScript code will not run. Okay, but there are a lot of other uses of prevent default. We'll see in different contexts. Now we are talking in the context of a form. Okay, so it always has to be there, and this is a very common bug. Even experienced people, when they write the code, sometimes they face this issue and they still try to figure out why is the code not working, right? Okay, the simple thing is, if it is a form, okay, you have to do a prevent default. Now there's one more way to do this. Okay, let me just show you what is the other way to create a form. So let me just save this form. Okay, and I'll go to HTML here. Now this is also one more common way to do. Instead of assigning the submit handler to this button, you can also hook onto the form submit method also. Okay, form is an object, correct? It also has some events. So there's a submit event on the form which can be tracked. Okay, almost both are same thing actually. You can do whichever approach you want. But let me just show you how you can attach it. Okay, now instead of attaching the submit using this submit button, the button will still be there, but I'll be attaching the handler to the form so that I can track the form submission, right? For that, definitely I will need to give it an ID, right? So I'll simply call it as login form. Okay, I'm calling this form as login form. Now, once I create a reference to that login form, okay, I'll come back to my JavaScript in here and I'll get an handler to that form. Okay, I'll get a handle to that form by using a variable. So document.query selector login form. Okay. Then what I can do is now I can use this login form and track the submit event, right? So I'll just comment this code here. And I'll just keep this code for your reference. Okay, and write new code here. Okay, I'll just paste the code as it is. Now the only difference here is instead of the submit form, which is a button actually, again there's a confusion in the naming. I'll change the naming later on. Okay, I can use this login form here, and instead of the click, I look out for an event called submit. Okay, because this form has a submit event. The button doesn't have a submit event, button has a click event. Now we are attaching it to the form, right? So everything will work the way it was working. The only difference being, now instead of attaching the event to the button, you are attaching the event to the form. This simply means whenever the form is submitted, do this thing. Okay, now let's take a look at here. Everything will still work the same. And okay, and you have this alert coming up and your form is working correctly. If you omit this event.prevent default, now what will happen is JavaScript will not have control, right? Your page will be refreshed. Why it is still having, it's very strange. It might not be refreshed actually. Just a minute. Oh, okay. It's because of the submit event, I suppose. Yeah, it's because of the submit event. Okay, but again, see, your form is getting refreshed. So always remember, whenever you are handling the form submit, always use event.prevent default to prevent the default behavior. Okay, so that you can write your JavaScript code in here. Okay, and everything will work as expected. Is this part very, very clear to everyone? Just drop me a message in the chat window. Yeah, so that's it for today's session actually. Okay, so our goal is one session at a time, small session. Initially, once the fundamentals are done, we'll be having an advanced concept. Important thing here is this, it's not about this session, it's about the learning. Now, what all things we learned here, right? It's very, very important to understand. One thing that we learned here is always use a label for when you create form. Okay, that's one thing, label for better practice, right? Second thing is naming variables. Okay, third thing is organizing code. Fourth thing is check if element exist. Okay, fifth thing is whenever you are dealing with form submission, okay, use event dot prevent default. Is this 5 or 6 learnings clear to everyone? Okay, and of course, how to select DOM element and how to attach event listeners. Take care. Let me show you a couple of more observations and then we will wind up the sessions. Okay, and the assignment I'll be sharing in the group. Okay, please do not miss the assignment. Believe me, if you miss the assignment for 4 days, a lot of learnings will be missed. Okay, so try to do that assignment. That's the only reason I kept the session alternate days. Okay, so let me do one more thing. Now, if you are a beginner programmer, you might be wondering here, okay, what is this event object, right? Here and here. But this can be anything. You can call it event or you can also name it anything. I could simply call it E. See, even if I name it E here, and then if I try to make it work, it will still work. Okay, because whenever an event happens, the first parameter that is sending is nothing but the event object. Whether you call it event or you can call it E, that's up to you. But in many code, you will actually see this E being used. Okay, instead of writing the complete event object, right? So is this very, very clear to everyone? Because this method, we are not calling this method. Okay, this click method. This method is actually called by the browser or the runtime engine whenever the click happens. Okay, and it will send you a parameter. That parameter is the event object. Okay, you can call it E, ABC, whatever you want, but as a naming convention, keep it as event or maybe E from a shortcut perspective. Okay, so any queries for today? It is clear, right? But please practice, huh? Because in 100 days, 100 sessions, we'll be covering a lot of things. And if you don't practice, okay, muscle memory has to be created. Okay, so you have to code it out. I'll share this link with you. And in the Telegram group, please watch out for assignments. Okay, and I'll be sharing some reading materials also. I'll be sharing these notes. Probably if I'm able to process the recording this weekend, I'll upload the recording also. Okay, and I'll tell you how to submit the assignment. But for now, what you can do is you can simply share that JSBin URL. Okay, use JSBin for now, and later on I'll show you VS Code, etc. Because that will not matter actually. Okay, for conceptual things we will use JSBin so that you can directly share the link with me. Is it clear, everyone? Or you can use CodePen also, doesn't matter. Okay, later on, once we go into more advanced examples, right, we'll organize into a project and you can use VS Code, and maybe everyone will have to create a GitHub account. Okay, and you will be posting your code in the GitHub so that you can also build a portfolio after that. Because we'll be doing a project also later on using vanilla JavaScript. So that will help you out for later learning references.